Hello, everybody. Welcome to my live. Alrighty, so what is the subject for today? Well, as you know or might know, in immigration law, there are a lot of different waivers. Okay, and waivers are when you're inadmissible for some reason to the U.S. And if you do a waiver, it's essentially saying, forget about this and let me in. Okay. So the waiver we're going to talk about today, the criminal waiver, is when particular crimes are more than 15 years old and what needs to be done. And I'm going to get into some of the specifics about that, the procedures, which crimes qualify, which don't, the burden of proof, and so forth. And then after that, I will go back. I will see whatever questions you guys put on immigration, and then I will answer them. Okay, now remember, it has to be U.S. immigration, because if it is immigration from another country, I'm not going to be able to answer that. Okay, so let's get to it. So a criminal waiver is normally very difficult. Not that the 15-year one is not, but it's normally very difficult. Okay, so what types of crimes will qualify for a 15-year criminal waiver? Well, one would be crimes involving moral turpitude. Okay, the other will be various drug offenses. Okay, those are basically it. And it doesn't mean that there's not a lot of them, but those are the two major categories that this particular crime or crimes will allow to be waived. Okay? Now, what do you need to do in order to get the criminal waiver prepared and submitted in this case? Okay? First, let's talk about the qualifying relative. Okay, with most waivers that you have to do, you have to show extreme hardship to a qualifying relative, which means, whether it be a spouse or a child or a parent who's a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. That is the usual norm, and that's not easy to prove. Number one, with most cases, if you don't have a qualifying relative, you're not even going to be able to do the waiver. Okay? And then if you have the qualifying relative, you have to show that hardship, which that's not easy to show. The reason I bring this up is because with the 15-year waiver, there is no hardship requirement. There's no qualifying relative requirement. So just right off the bat, to do the 15-year waiver is easier. The burden is easier to prove. Bottom line. So if you have a choice between doing a 15-year waiver or doing a regular criminal waiver, well, of course you're going to pick the 15-year waiver. So if let's say you're at 14 years, you might want to wait one more year to go forward so that the waiver has a much better chance of success. So instead of showing the hardship to a qualifying relative, what takes its place is showing rehabilitation for you, okay? So if you committed the crime 15 years ago, you have to show rehabilitation, and that's the biggest part of the criminal waiver for a 15-year crime. How do you show rehabilitation? Okay, you have all kinds of years of employment records. You pay your taxes. Maybe you have a family. Maybe you go to church. Maybe you have a bunch of letters of recommendation or letters of good moral character from people who are not necessarily your family because they don't believe that if a family puts it, it's true. And you show just a nice 15-year line of no other crimes, which there might be crimes, but if not, that's great. No other crimes. And you show that you've been rehabilitated in order to get this particular waiver approved. Okay? That's the biggest part. What else do you have to show? Well, you have to show that you're deserving of it. Okay? It's discretionary, which means Some people think just because they submit it and just because it's 15 years old that it's going to be approved for sure. And that's not the case. It's discretionary. Okay? The person adjudicating that waiver can say no if they don't believe you're qualified for it. The other big item, although not as big as rehabilitation, is you have to show you're not a danger to society. Okay? So there's ways of showing that. I have people who say, well, how am I supposed to show that? Well, there are lots of ways of showing that. Okay, you might show, again, that you have a family, that you haven't done any crimes in, X number of years. Thank you. You haven't done anything that would cause harm to other people. Okay? So, if you have... Thank you. If you have, these types of crimes and you qualify for a waiver, well, then this is the one you need to apply for. Okay? That is the one that you need to go forward and you need to apply for. So, again, there's lots of different kinds of waivers, but in order to get it approved, of course, you have to be able to submit all of the evidence that will convince the officer that you qualify. Okay? All right. So that in a nutshell is about the 15-year waiver, how you apply for it, what type of evidence you need, and when you can apply. Now, the one misconception is that a lot of people think that the 15 years begins from the date of conviction. Okay, and that's not true. It's the date of commission, which basically is easier for you to get to the 15 years, meaning that if you committed the crime, let's say in 2015, but you weren't convicted until 2018, the 15 years begins to run from 2015 when you committed the crime, not 2018 when you were convicted. Okay? Alrighty. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, if anybody wants to do a consult live, just let me know and I'll invite you and we can have at it. Okay? Let me scroll back down to the people who joined and see if we have any questions. And by the way, if anyone does have any questions, now's the time to ask, because I'm scrolling down to see, and I will be happy to answer them. 1 second. Okay, let me keep scrolling down. Thanks for the roses and the other things. Okay, 1 second. Be patient. I'm scrolling up to see her. Okay, this is from AMH 5319. I-130 approved. Petitioner died. Cases at NVC and interviews scheduled next month. Should we attend? Okay, well, a couple things. AMH. First of all, if the I-130 was approved and the petitioner died, the question is whether or not you need a humanitarian reinstatement. And when you say should we attend, I'm not sure who you mean by we. Okay, obviously you're not talking about the petitioner. Okay, so they have what's called 204L. And if the petitioner and the beneficiary are inside the United States at the time the petitioner dies, then no humanitarian reinstatement is needed, and you can go forward with the I-130 even though the petitioner died. And you just need to get basically a substitute sponsor, okay, who makes a sufficient amount to show that you, the beneficiary, won't become a public charge. I don't think that's the case here because you say the case is at the NVC, which would indicate that the beneficiary is outside the United States. And the fact that that occurs means you do need to do a humanitarian reinstatement. So a humanitarian reinstatement is exactly what it says. For humanitarian reasons, the government will reinstate the I-130 petition to go forward as though the petitioner never died. It's not easy to get that. Again, this is another case where I have a lot of people who go, well, I submitted my humanitarian reinstatement 6 months ago. Where's the approval? It's a discretionary decision. It's very discretionary. So unless, unless you convince them to grant it, that I-130 is gone. Okay? So should you attend? Well, you should attend for the purposes of saying you want to do a humanitarian reinstatement and can they put the case on hold? Okay? And then you do the humanitarian reinstatement, submit it, and hopefully it'll be approved and the case can move forward. So that's how it goes. Don't just give up because the petitioner died. They have specific law that allows that to go forward. I mean, I don't know what preference petition this is, but sometimes people wait many, many years and then the petitioner dies. Why give up and try to start all over again, even if you might not even be able to start over again? Okay? Alrighty. Let's see. Let me scroll down, see if we have any other questions. Okay. Well, let's see. Well, me got the number 2 gifter badge. Oh, and sent me a lot of hearts and all that other stuff. Thank you. Just a minute. Oh, thank you for the rose, Milton. And good morning, me. I don't know if your name is me. Is the whole thing me? I'm Alibaba. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think that's all of the questions that we have for today. So basically, I'm going to call it a day. Get back on next time live. Oh, by the way, if anybody has any subjects they want me to do on the next live, just give me a holler. Okay? All right. Everybody have a good day.